H2kinfosys provides world-class online IT training, staffing and software testing solutions to customers worldwide. H2kinfosys supports 100% job-oriented training, hands-on project work, cloud test lab, resume preparation and review, mock interviews, robust syllabus. One-time pay, lifetime access to live classes and videos. H2kinfosys has won the trust of thousands of students worldwide. For free demo class, visit H2kinfosys.com.
Okay, so what exactly the loops mean? I can quickly start. So Python has two primitive loop commands. Okay, so loop mean, I'll tell you what. So now suppose there is a condition, there is a situation where you have to actually iterate in a certain block. Now what are these conditions like? Suppose I have like 60 students in my classroom and I want to calculate all the percentage, right? For every item in the shopping cart, I have to calculate all the taxes, correct? Because I have to choose whether it's a food item or non-food item, and according to that, service tax will be added. So all those things will be has to happen after scanning each and every barcode, correct? So all these operations, okay, for every employee in the company, I have to calculate designation wise salary, right? So now these all conditions are when you have to process every item out of this particular collection. Okay, so it can be 60 students, it can be thousands of employees, it can be 6 items in a shopping cart, doesn't matter, but you are doing something with an item which is more than one, and you are iterating the same exact logic for all those items, right? For that you need while and for. There are two types of loops, so for that you need loops. In Python we have two loops, while and for, and they have a completely different purpose. Okay, so we will get to know about the purpose while we are going through it. The first one is while loop. Okay, so how does that work? So the while loop can execute the set of statement as long as there is a condition which is true. Okay, so the syntax is be like while and there is a condition. If this condition turns out to be true, only then the block of code within this while loop will get executed. Actually, if this condition is true, till this condition is true, the block of code will continue to get executed. That means it will happen line number 1, line number 2, line number 3, line number 4, line number 5. Done with the condition, done with the block. Okay, come back, check the condition again. If the condition is still true, line number 1, line 2, 3, 4, 5, again go back, check the condition again, and it goes on. Okay, so if you do not have anything which is actually driving this condition false, then basically you are going to endlessly work on this loop. Okay, so this loop will continue forever. Okay, so we definitely don't want this. Rather, I will tell you one thing: while loops are used when there are conditions where you are dependent on for iterating through loops. You do not know how many times you want to iterate, but you are just dependent on a condition. Okay, so just like fetching a record from the database, okay, or reading a file system file, and you are reading a file line by line, you do not have an idea how many lines this particular file has. At that time, while loop. When you are reading from the database, you hit the SQL query, say select star from some table. You do not know how many records it actually came with until and unless you ask for that, like select count and all those. Okay, so when you have a condition like this, when you are actually dependent on a condition, not the count. Okay, I repeat, condition, not the count. You use while loop. Okay, so let's take an example of while loop like this. Okay, we'll actually sum up some like 1 to 10 numbers with this example, a simple example. Later on, when we will be comfortable in other programming like objects and all, we will take an example of that. Rather, for file handling and for data Python database, we're gonna use while loop anyway. So Python file, and I will say loops. Okay, so the first one, what I'm going to do is we'll just create a variable which says count, start with 0, and then I'll say total, again is 0, and I'll have condition while, and here I'll say count is less than 10. That's a condition. Now till count is less than 10, I'm going to add this to total. So total equals to count or total plus count. Okay, and what's happening? We are actually increasing the count now, because until and unless we do that, so count plus 1. This is also one way. I'll tell you another way also. Also, we can print like what is the dynamic total getting printed. So total, oops, in a string format, total. Okay. So now this is a loop proper. Now what's happening here is we are just initializing the variables with 0, 0. Count is less than 10, and the first time situation is count is really less than 10, so it is 0. So we are saying total equals to total plus count. Okay, 0 plus 0, it's basically 0 again. Then count equals to count plus 1. Okay, so that now the count value is 1, because count original value was 0, so 0 plus 1, it's gonna be 1. Okay, come back here. Is 1 less than 10? Yes, the answer is yes. No issues with that. Okay, so now the total will increase by 1. Now second time it will be 2. Third time it will be 3. And it goes on. So this is what the loops are. So if I execute this, and then I can start with 1. So it will be a 1 loop count lesser. And run loops. So you got this. Basically 1, 3, 6 and all those, and finally you say total is 45. Okay. So it is count is less than 10, that's why it's saying 45. Okay, we can also print count value here. Okay, so let's do that. So that we'll get to know what's going on. Okay, so go ahead and run the loop. Okay, so at the loop number 10, the value is 45. Correct? If I make it equals to, then what will happen? 10 also will get added. Okay, what's happening here is when the loop count is basically 10, it's not getting added here in the total. Okay, so let's run this and make it 55. So that is 55. Okay, on 11th loop. So that's a problem. You are thinking that's the 11th loop, but that's not. Yeah. Good with that? So basically you are done with entire loop. This is while loop. Now when you do not have, when you are dependent on a condition, use while loop. But what if you are not dependent on a condition? What if you exactly know how many elements you have? At that time, this is not the loop you use. Actually, you can, but then there is no point. Yeah. So at that time, you use for loop, right? So for loop is used while iterating through collections, arrays, or exact number of iterations. Okay, that's how it goes. So fine, let's go back. Come back to break. Python for loop. For loop is used for iterating over a sequence. Okay, it can be a list, a tuple, a dictionary, or set, or a string, or anything. Okay, so for that we use for loop. This is less like a for keyword in other programming languages. Okay, it works more like an iterator method found in other programming languages. Okay. With for loop, we can execute set of statements once each item in the list tuple set, okay, gets executed. Now, before moving to for loop, I have to tell you what is an array. Okay, so let's take an example of that. Okay, so let's take first an definition of it. Array is what? So array is a set of elements or set of things. Okay, not even element, set of things, or you can say set of similar things. Okay, handled with a single variable name. or handled, or you can call it with a single variable name. What does it really mean? So suppose I want to call out all subject marks. So I'll just say marks, okay, equals. Now the subject 1 has 20 marks, subject 2 has 23 marks, then 24, okay, then 19, okay, and subject 6 has 25, or 5 has 25. Okay, so all these marks are together. Now I can mark this as, or I can use this as an array and handle it in a single variable called marks. To use that as a single variable, I have to take this into square brackets. Okay, these things are called as arrays. Python is very particular about these white spaces and everything. So these things is called as array. So this is an array which is handling marks. Okay. Now as I told you about strings, arrays also have indexes, and indexes starts from 0. So just like at the position 0 in a string you get the first alphabet, here also at the position 0 you get the first marks. So if I say print marks and pass 0 to it, you're gonna actually get 20 out of it. So let's take this example, run this, you're gonna get 20. So similarly I can access all these things. Definitely I cannot surpass this particular index. If I do, I'll get index out of bound error. So if I use this as 10, this is bad, it doesn't work. Okay, so it's an index out of range, it's called index error, so you should not pass that particular value. Now when I want to do something with each and every value of this, I will use for loop. Okay, so for, I'll say, and now there will be a variable, let's say each subject in marks, here you go. Okay, and then you can iterate to it. So probably you can print, how do you print? It's a each subject. Okay, so you will actually iterate through entire list of marks one by one. Okay, so that is for loop. Now for loop is applicable for other collection types also. So let's take array. In Python we have 4 different types of, so set, tuple, what I can say, list, okay, and dictionary. So there are 4 types of collections in Python. For all of them, for loop will work like this. For loop will also work for strings. So let's take that example. So sample var equals to, and you can just say apple. So you can actually start for each alpha in sample var. You can do that, and you can just say print each app alpha. So what's gonna happen is, as you know that a string is also an array, it will actually print A, then B, then P, then L, and then E. Okay, so if I run this, you're gonna get a printed value like this. Okay, now what are the things, so how for loop makes our life easy? Can we do that in while loop? Absolutely, you can do that in while loop. How? So if I want to, and this is very good problem actually. So if I want to do that in while loop, first thing I have to take is, I have to take the length. Okay, and then use length function on marks. Okay, so I'll get how many really values available, and then I have to write a while loop. Okay, while, and then you have to add a count here, probably like this is not, or length should not be written. So now it will be like init var equals 0. Okay, or I'll say index equals to 0. right? And then index should not be greater than length of marks. So how complicated it will be? Less than length of marks. Okay, and then you have to access this. Isn't that true? Okay, I don't need presses. Okay, and then you have to access print marks, and then here it will be index. Correct? Plus you have to do index plus plus. Okay, I have to tell you what is this index plus plus. Index equals to index plus 1. Okay, so now I have these all lines of code written, plus I have these 2 lines of code written, which is better. So this is how for loops makes our life easy, right? So to iterate through everything, I have to write 6, 11 lines of code, 5 lines of code. Here though, it is just a single line, okay, or 2 lines for that matter. So that's how for loops make our life easy.